This is Estonia and this is Lithuania. We're going to see which country is the best, as I will give them 1 to 10 points in all kinds of categories. We have food, economy, sports, quality of life, tourism and a bunch of other things as well. But only one country can claim the title of being the winner. So are you ready to get the first category? Estonian food is mostly heavy dishes that doesn't have a very beautiful look, but it does make you feel full. It's simple and comforting and has both Scandinavian, Russian and German influences. And as with most countries that are historically cold, people have learned to make food that warms them up. Kartuli salad and rosolje are some nice sides to the party. Sprat sandwiches are pretty good and even better if you remove the actual sprat. Kama is great, which is a flour mixture that usually is mixed into all kinds of desserts. And it has this sweet but bready aftertaste. And I actually love the Estonian version of the Swedish semla. It's called vasslakukkel, and typically it's served in February. It's a sweet bun filled with cream and also usually either jam or chocolate. As a whole, Estonia gets 5 points for food. Now, for Lithuania, the style of food doesn't change very much. It's still heavy and hearty, meant to keep you warm from the inside. Now, my favorite dish is probably not even a dish, but more of a snack. It's called kepta duna, and it's basically fried bread. So I think you understand why this stuff is good. The dish is made of rye bread, which is a big thing in all of the Baltics. It's then sliced, fried, and usually rubbed with garlic. Then you take the breadsticks and dip them into mayo. It's simply amazing. My second favorite is the seppelinai, a potato dumpling filled with meat or cheese. It's usually served with sour cream and bacon. And honestly, this is really good and it will stuff you up pretty quickly. There's also the beet soup, which kind of reminds me of the Russian borscht. It's a cold pink soup made of beets and kefir, and usually served with a boiled egg. Not a dream dish, but decent for sure. Taking all this and adding the Lithuanian cheese, honey and croquettes, Lithuania gets 6 points for food. So what about the economy? After the countries received their independence in 1990 and 1991, both saw a decline in population due to low fertility rates, high mortality rates and emigration thanks to the low living standards in the countries. However, since 2000, this started to change. And with a small bump in the road in 2009, this has all been a distant memory. And since 2012, the Baltic countries have recorded the highest growth in the European Union. And they continue to stay stable even during current times. Lithuania is the biggest in terms of land area, and also the largest economy in the Baltics. It has transitioned from a communist economic system into a Western-style market economy and has aggressively pursued privatization. Services is the biggest economic sector, followed by industry and agriculture. Today, most of Lithuania's economy relies on foreign markets, and a lot of global companies operate in Lithuania. For this, Lithuania gets 5 points in economy. Estonia, on the other hand, has a slightly smaller economy when looking at GDP, but has a very interesting story regarding its development. They have a modern market-based economy and have transitioned from being a poor country into a high-tech and innovative hub. Its production of modern products and dynamic IT sectors are now growth engines for the country. And the country is constantly looking to Scandinavia for inspiration on how to run things. Overall, Estonia gets 5 points as well in this category. So if you have to choose one of these two countries for traveling, which one should you go to? Well, first of all, traveling to the Baltics is something you 100% should do. While other European countries can get super crowded during the summers, these countries are just a little less busy, which kinda lets you really enjoy the place on a whole other level. They're also still cheaper than other places in Western Europe, even though they have been getting a lot pricier lately. And Estonia is such a unique place, even though it shares history with the other two Baltic sisters, and that most people associate Estonia to Soviet rule, the country couldn't be further away from that. In fact, the country it has the closest ties with culturally is Finland. And when you visit Estonia, you get more of a Nordic vibe than an Eastern European one. Tons of museums for the one looking for a cultural fix, and wonderful nature to walk around in, especially bog walking, which is something not only the tourists enjoy. And if you're more on the adventurous side, just outside the small town of Rumu is one of the world's most unique diving sites, the Rumu Prison. But other than that, Estonia is just a place to relax, and if you don't like walking in parks or in museums, you might get a bit bored. I'm giving Estonia 5 points for tourism. Lithuania gives you pretty much the same experience as Estonia, but with another culture. One place that is really special though is the Hill of Crosses. This is a must-see if you're in the country, as it's one of those places in the world that needs to be experienced. Lithuania also has some nice beaches for the person who enjoys those types of things. The Curonian Spit is a very unique place, something that we discussed even more in this video about Lithuania. Grūtas Park is another interesting place if you want to learn more about Soviet control of Lithuania. Back then, statues were placed all over the country of Soviet leaders, but after Lithuania gained independence, those statues were removed and placed in this park. Lithuania just has a few more interesting places for a person like me who wants to learn and can't sit still, so they're getting 6 points in this category. When it comes to infrastructure, I think it's a common misconception that the Baltic countries are somewhat underdeveloped or behind in some of these things. This couldn't be further from the truth, as both Lithuania and Estonia are among the top in Europe when it comes to digital infrastructure. And Estonia is really putting the E in its name with the e-Estonia, which is one of the most advanced e-societies in the world. And basically means that its citizens can do pretty much any government service online, from registering a business to voting in elections. The infrastructure for transport is also quite good, with a well-developed port infrastructure, good quality on the road networks, which is designed and constructed to EU standards, and they're also currently developing a huge railway system called Rail Baltica, which will connect Estonia to Central and Western Europe. With a great digital infrastructure and a good one for transport, Estonia gets 6 points in this category. And Lithuania isn't exactly shy when it comes to its digital infrastructure either. It's even ranked first in the world for public Wi-Fi speed. And together with Estonia, they're at the very top of the National Cybersecurity Index. They also have a great system for transportation, and there's a reason many major companies have hubs in Lithuania. Klaipėda is their largest port in the Baltic states and can handle up to 70 million tons of cargo annually. The rail cargo system has direct connections to Poland, Germany, Latvia, Ukraine and Kazakhstan. And they're currently setting up connections to Scandinavia, Italy and Turkey. And remember that Rail Baltica project? Well, Lithuania is in on that as well. And with 3 international airports and the location of the country, they have access to what you call key European locations in 2 to 3 hours. With a best-in-class ICT infrastructure, great connectivity and geographical location, Lithuania gets 7 points for infrastructure. As you probably figured by now, the standard of living in these countries have gone way up over the last decades. And by now, their quality of life indexes are even higher than many countries you assume are good places to live. Lithuania is a somewhat affordable country to live in, and fewer people now face financial difficulties than before. The wages have increased, and with that, the levels of happiness have risen in the country, as people now are in a good position to provide for themselves and their families. The education system is great, and Lithuania has one of the lowest early dropout rates in the European Union, and also at the top when looking at the 30-year-olds with higher education qualifications. There's low pollution, a good healthcare system, and people generally feel safe in the country. Overall, Lithuania gets 5 points for quality of life. Estonia is also making some moves when it comes to quality of life, and is actually starting to push into the top 10 countries in the world when it comes to this, currently sitting at 12th place. Its biggest strength is how safe people feel, education and environmental quality, so fresh air and water, and in fact they have some of the cleanest air in the world. The education is, as mentioned, great, with top placements in Europe when looking at basic education, and 15-year-olds' ability to read, doing math and learning science. And they also have one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Salaries are still quite low when compared to the world, and the life expectancy is just a few years lower than the OECD standard. But overall, Estonia gets 7 points in this category. Now, when it comes to sports, Estonia isn't really a giant in any way. Sure, they had some amazing individual athletes over the years, just like almost all countries have had. Kelly Sildaru is an amazing freestyle skier, Yuri Losman was a great long-distance runner, Alfred Schmidt knew how to lift, and Yuri Tam could throw that hammer pretty far. But other than a few decent individual athletes, Estonia doesn't make a mark in the world of sports. In soccer, FIFA ranks them at the 111th spot. In basketball, which many see as the country's national sport, FIBA has them at place 44. And even though ice hockey is starting to grow in the country, they're still pretty far from the top in that as well. As a whole, Estonia deserves 4 points for sports. And while Lithuania is not much better in sports, and actually worse in many of them, the fact that Lithuania can produce so many good basketball players has to count for something. I mean, the country has about double the population of Estonia, but it's still a small country when looking at the people living here. And yet, they managed to produce some amazing talent. And they're currently ranked 8th in the world by FIBA, the International Basketball Federation. With the basketball skills bumping this country up, I give Lithuania 5 points for sports. Now the time we've all been waiting for is finally here. Who is the winner? Let's count the points together. First, we had food. where Estonia got 5 points for its food that doesn't was my type of food, while Lithuania got 6 points, mostly thanks to snacks and cheese. Then we had the economy, where Estonia received 5 points, thanks to a slightly lower GDP but an amazing tech scene. And Lithuania also got 5 points, for the way it has tackled the market since the Soviet years. In the tourism category, Lithuania gathered 6 points, thanks to having a bit more fun things to see and do for a restless soul like myself. While Estonia got 5 points, as I got a bit bored when I was here. In infrastructure, both countries are doing well, and Estonia got 6 points thanks to its super developed digital infrastructure. And Lithuania got 7 points, since it's also a bit stronger on the transportation side. For quality of life, both countries are making moves in the world, although Estonia is really starting to shine here, as it's currently in the 12th place in the world when it comes to this measurement. So they received 7 points. Lithuania is not a bad place by any means, but some aspects of life are just not on par with Estonia. Therefore, they got 5 points. Then in the sports section, neither country is really a huge sports nation. But the fact that Lithuania is that good at a huge sport like basketball gives them the upper hand in this category, as they receive 5 points, compared to Estonia's 4 points. Counting all these numbers together, and the winner is Lithuania. So congrats to you for winning this matchup. Now, do you think it would have been a different score if we looked at other aspects? Let us know in the comments. Then, go learn more about these countries by clicking on the videos on your screen right now.